Get you more on the case now. Bring in Newzroom Afrika reporter Linda Mnisi, who's with me in studio to summarize the first day of this week's proceedings. Linda, Bongani Ntanzi, then let's stay with him because there was also today a lot of conversation in court about his alleged unlawful detention.
Yeah, you'll remember that at the heart of this trial within a trial rather, is the issue around his constitutional rights, his basic rights, which are enshrined in Section 35 of the Constitution. And one of those rights relates to the detention of an arrested person. How long can that person stay in custody? You'll recall that last week we heard from Magistrate Cronje that Bongani Ntanzi indicated to her during the taking down of that confession statement that he had been in detention since the 16th of June and was making the statement on the 24th of June. That's now 8 days, and he hadn't been brought to court. Now, Advocate Mshololo putting it to the witness at Magistrate Cronje on what exactly she did, because the law is quite clear around the fact that within the 48 hours, any arrested persons needs to be taken to court. It was 8 days, and he was reporting that he hadn't been taken to court. What happened? Did she note that as an irregularity? And this is what she had to say.
Why did you proceed with someone who had indicated to you that he was in an unlawful detention from the 16th of June? Why did you proceed in taking down the statement from a person who had been kept in an unlawful detention?
I was verdedig op daai stadium. Hy was begeerig om die verklaring te maak op daai stadium.
He was represented at that stage. He wanted to. It was from him. He's the one who showed that desire to speak or to say something at the time.
Op daardie stadium was ek van oordeel gewees dat dit nie nodig was om die verrigtinge tot 'n stop te bring.
And at that particular time, I also did not consider it, or also not consider, I also did not see it necessary or deem it necessary to bring the proceedings to a halt or to stop with the proceedings.
I mean, a lot has happened around Bongani Ntanzi and his alleged involvement in the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. Just last week, the court had to deal with the admissibility of a recording of the alleged confession. That's now not going to be played out in court. But now there is this claim of an alleged violation of his rights as an arrested and an accused person. When all of it comes together with the confession statement, etc., what bearing ultimately might it have on the case?
It's interesting because if you look at the ruling that was made just last week on the audio recording, the judge noting that his constitutional rights were violated by Magistrate Vivienne Cronje when she recorded that audio without his consent. This issue around unlawful detention is really at the heart of the constitutional rights, one of the issues that are amongst the many other rights that he has. So it's going to be interesting looking at how the judge will deal with this particular issue. But if you look at, the evidence entirely, his right to legal representation, that is seemingly corroborated by the court interpreter who said Bongani Ntanzi also is the one that, in fact, said this guy, Dominic Mjiago, who was dressed in a suit, was his lawyer. So he was legally represented. So at this point, we don't even know whether or not there was at some stage where Bongani Ntanzi challenged the lawfulness of his arrest. But this is a point that the defense drove quite significantly during the start of proceedings. And let's take a listen to what they had to say.
Now, after telling you this, that he had been kept in an unlawful detention, what did you do as a magistrate to release him?
Dit is nie binne my magte om hom vry te laat nie, en ek het hierdie aangeleentheid ten opsigte van hierdie punt aan die senior landros gerapporteer nadat die konfessie afgeneem is.
It was not within my powers to release him, and this particular aspect I mentioned it, or I reported it to the senior magistrate upon the completion of taking down the confession.
Yes, I agree. It was not within your powers to release the accused, but it was within your powers to stop and to say, I cannot proceed taking down a statement from a person who has been or who is in unlawful detention before me. Am I correct?
Dit was nie op daai stadium vir my geoorloof om dit te doen nie, aangesien ek slegs 'n eensydige weergawe het van sy kant af van hoe hy voor my gebring is en ek nie al die feite gehad het
It was not in my authority for me to do that or to release him at that stage, and I only had this one-sided version.
What do we expect to happen, Melinda, tomorrow and for the rest of the week in the trial?
Well, it's interesting where we are right now. We've just come out of the testimony of the court interpreter who detailed to the court how Bongani Ntanzi insisted, number one, on being legally represented, but also confirming to the court that he actually signed that statement. Another important thing that came out from the court interpreter is that Bongani Ntanzi, in fact, did say that he wanted to make that statement. And you'll also remember that this falls within the questions around whether or not he had freely and voluntarily made this
force.
Absolutely. So it's quite interesting that the interpreter, who was among the people who were inside the room when the confession was made, now says he actually wanted to speak and wanted to make that confession. I gave him the pen to sign the statement that the defense now says he did not sign. So they've moved from there, and now they're dealing with the issue around the pointing out statement that was made by accused number one, Muzila Ukulelwa Sibiya. So right now, it's cross-examination of the lieutenant colonel who took down the pro forma statement that, of course, deals with his rights. And he said that they're objecting to it because he, too, was tortured and assaulted. So the cross-examination will continue tomorrow.
Linda Mnisi will update us on that throughout the day here on Newzroom Afrika. You can also follow Linda on Twitter, well, now X, formerly Twitter, if you want up-to-the-minute reporting throughout the day on that trial. And we'll wrap it all up for you here on News at Prime, same time tomorrow.